What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a three-headed theme team originally put together by the GOAT Home-Size Henry over 2 years ago, back when, in my opinion at least, he was the king of creative theme teams. Nowadays, of course, he focuses more on strong teams to help people climb elo, but I personally love to see the crazy theme teams return on his channel every now and then. Anyways, I'm running this team because, of course, all three Pokemon got buffs this season, with Dodrio getting a triple buff, Hydreigon getting a double buff, and Magneton getting a single buff. With that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. What unique theme team would you like to see me run this season that includes several newly buffed Pokemon? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Dodrio into a Shadow Nidoqueen. So of course, this is a great matchup, assuming they're on Mudslap, which they are. The opponent gonna stay in, fire off a Poison Fang, which I'm actually gonna shield here. Poison Fang would not get the KO, but they swap into their own buff flying type. In Fearow, we've got a lot of energy, so I fire off back-to-back Drill Pecks before they can fire off their own charge move. And then finally, I will swap into Shadow Magneton. Now, the reason I throw both those moves there first is because this Pokemon has access to Drill Run. Drill Run is double super effective. That would easily get the one shot, but as a result, we get the full farm down. All shields are now down on the opponent's end, so of course, Magnet Bomb gonna get the one shot up against the Shadow Nidoqueen, and Shadow Magneton will be sweeping this first game here as I come in with a Togekiss. Magnet Bomb number 2 gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see Greninja in the lead. So this is an okay matchup for me, but I do have two better answers. So I'm actually going to swap out Catch, either a Hydro Cannon or a Night Slash resisted onto Hydreigon. The opponent, unfortunately, very much hard punishes me with a Wigglytuff, but that's okay. We do have Magneton in the back, so we can come in with that Magneton. They will outpace me to the first charge move. I do resist everything, and because Charm does less damage this season, I'm actually happy to no shield there, whereas previous seasons, I probably would have been forced to shield that. But anyways, we're going to fire off the Magnet Bomb. Magnet Bomb is going to be shielded by the opponent, and we do reach a second Magnet Bomb. So at this point, Magnet Bomb going to be double shielded. We can come back in with that Dodrio, go for the snipe with the Drill Peck before they can debuff me. Drill Peck gets the KO from that range. We've got a 2-shield advantage. They come back in with Greninja, and of course, they will outpace me to that next charge move. I believe they did full send a Hydro Cannon last time. Either way, I'm going to overfarm just slightly. I might as well go for Trailblaze there. Permanently boost up my attack here. Trailblaze gets the KO, and once again, they've got Togekiss in the back. We can go straight for a boosted Drill Peck. Drill Peck does big damage. The opponent tries to commit to a farm down. They're not able to get it, and as a result, I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. I believe we are going up against a streamer on Twitch, Tomahawk UK, and we are going to go straight for Drill Peck as we have a mirror match here. Dodrio into Dodrio, very cool to see. I'm going to no-shield this as the opponent is actually going to go for a Trailblaze bait there. However, that does allow them to farm me down, so that might have been the right play there on their end. We can now come in with the Magneton, and the opponent's going to come in with a Dunsparce. So here we end up throwing, I believe, on CMP there, which is quite fortunate for me. Magnet Bomb is going to be shielded by the opponent. I realized if I try to throw it on good timing here, unfortunately, they will get to another charge move, but I'm not certain, and actually, I'm pretty certain that would not get the KO from that range anyways, so might as well double shield here, and then go for a massive overfarm before firing off a Discharge. Discharge gets the KO there. They're going to come in with a Torterra, and unfortunately, 2 Mudslaps will be getting the KO. Magnet Bomb does big damage, and hopefully we put them into range where we can get the farm down before they reach a charge move. And of course, this Dodrio does have energy, but it's just a Drill Peck. We've already seen the Trailblaze, so we knew it was not a Brave Bird. We get to the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. You see Dodrio into a Lantern, so this is not a good matchup for me. Going to be safe swapping into Hydreigon, and we're met with a Shadow Quagsire. So at this point, going to fire off a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded by the opponent. I'm also going to shield. I actually didn't feel like that was enough energy for a Stone Edge, but I actually kind of just missed the animations for a lot of the mud shots. This definitely is not enough energy, so I'm going to no shield this one. It is just the Aqua Tail there, not dealing too much damage. We can fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Brutal Swing is going to be no-shielded, and the opponent actually swaps back into Lantern, but Hydreigon not done yet. We can reach the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse does big damage. We now swap into Shadow Magneton, and we recognize we don't have much play into Quagsire, so there's no point shielding here. Surf actually barely doesn't get the KO, which is huge for me. We can go for Discharge. Discharge also going to be no-shielded, and their final Pokemon is a Shadow Giratina. So at this point, we're going to come in with our Dodrio, and the opponent is going to swap out, try to make a catch. It doesn't work out for them. And at this point, of course, we could potentially bait with a Trailblaze and then, of course, boost our attack. But I think the safe play is just to go for Drill Pecks. First Drill Peck is unfortunately shielded, so we could have gotten away with it. But we can fire off a second Drill Peck here. Of course, not running Brave Bird. Drill Peck gets them fairly low, and then we put them into range where one Dragon Breath will get the KO. And now it just depends. Well, they actually get the boost there. It doesn't make a difference there. We just get, unfortunate, not even one turn bring in lag. I believe that's just an inconsistency with one turn fast moves in general, where when they can KO both trainers, unfortunately, usually only one of them goes through, and in our case, it was not our Dragon Breath damage that landed. So anyways, into next battle. GG's to a trainer, by the way. We're going to see a safe swap into Hypno, and then not on Ice Punch, which is huge for me. Here, I'm going to throw on really bad timing there. Once again, I did these battles very close to midnight, so I'm going to blame being tired, but honestly, that is inexcusable. Going up against a 4-turn fast move in Confusion, you should not be throwing on alignment there. Even if you have to give away like 2-3 turns there, that is definitely the way to go. Instead of going the other way, throwing on alignment, giving a full fast move in for free. But anyways, it looks like it's not really going to matter too much in this battle, as we can come in with the Shadow Magneton. Of course, they are going to have access to Aura Sphere, and we are now all shields down. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can fully Volt Switch farm them down before they reach the next charge move there, but we do get them very low. So at this point, Aura Sphere gets the KO. We can just come back in with the Dodrio, however, and go for a full Peck farm down. Peck, farm down that Murkrow, and as a result, the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on that into the next battle. You can see a Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. So, a great lead matchup for me. We can outpace them to the first charge move, and we are going to go straight for Trailblaze. Trailblaze, of course, does boost up our attack, and it is going to grab a shield. It's also super effective up against the Shadow Kanto Marowak. So, we grab the shield there. We are now boosted, so I might as well go for a Drill Peck before I do end up swapping out. Drill Peck is going to be no-shielded. I'm then going to swap, look to catch a resisted Rock Slide onto the Magneton, and I'm able to do exactly that. Now, a bit of an awkward situation here where if I try to commit to a farm down, they do reach another charge move. So instead, I fire off that Discharge, but that just gives them free energy with their Marowak. However, of course, we do not tank those Mud Slaps very well, so only 2 Mud Slaps worth of energy. So not the worst thing ever, but still obviously not ideal. I'm now going to fire off a Drill Peck straight away as we're able to win CMP. And at this point, I've got to just trust that my Hydreigon can win this game. They fire off the Rock Slide. We come in with the Hydreigon, and we are going to throw before we actually take any more damage from the Mud Slaps. Brutal Swing gets the KO there, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Clodsire. And I'm actually not certain with Dragon Breath dealing less damage this season if we can actually win this game. They're on Sludge Bomb there, so unfortunately, they will be quite quick to reach the next charge move. Can I actually get to back-to-back Dragon Pulses? It doesn't look likely, so as a result, I do go for the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is unfortunately not enough damage to get the KO here, and actually, the opponent is going to have a Sludge Bomb, getting the KO from that range, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Gyarados in the lead. Now I'm going to play this very strangely, but I'm actually going to swap out one turn before they reach an Aqua Tail. Snipe with a single Volt Switch. We don't see that damage connect, but honestly, that would have done so much damage up against the Gyarados. At this point, we're going to fire off the Magnet Bomb. They no-shield, which is huge for me because Tinkaton completely destroys the rest of my team, but luckily for me, I've put them into range where, of course, a single Drill Peck, or actually, even if they shield this, I could just fully farm them down now. So we're going to go for the Drill Peck. Drill Peck is going to be shielded, so I assume surely they're just going to go for a Play Rough. But nope, they actually bait with a Bulldoze there, and they do drop my defense. So the opponent's going to come in with a Credilli. I'm swapping into Hydreigon. I can outpace them to a Brutal Swing before they do get to that first Rock Tomb. Brutal Swing is going to grab that final shield, and at this point, I'm going to no-shield this. I do expect the Gyarados to come in and try and snipe me eventually, but nope, they're actually going to stay in here And unfortunately, it does look like they can now commit to a full asset farm down. I didn't want to overfarm and go for a Dragon Pulse there just in case the opponent does snipe at the last second. But either way, we've got to be very careful with the energy. Watch out for a potential catch. The opponent swaps out there. They did, of course, just throw. Unfortunately, it looks like I won't quite get a full farm down, but we fire off the drill peck. We overfarm enough to reach a second drill peck with that Dodrio. And from this range, drill peck takes out Cradilli, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. You can see Dodrio into a Gastrodon. So, a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Dragonair, and I'm going to swap catch the Arctotail. But this might be a mistake here, as if the opponent wants to, they can shield. They're probably going to do slightly more damage with their Dragon Breaths than we're going to do with ours, as Hydreigon is slightly glassier. But luckily for me, the opponent does no shield. We're able to maintain alignment, and that is going to be very useful for me because I've got Shadow Magneton, which cannot see that Gastrodon. But of course, does very well into Togekiss while shields are still in play. Now, recognize they are going to swap out as soon as they throw this Aura Sphere, so I'm going to swap out straight away as well. We've got a lot of energy loaded. However, we've put ourselves... Excuse me there. We've put ourselves into range where a single Body Slam probably gets the KO here. So you could argue, potentially, shouldn't have gone for Trail Blades. Instead, should have just committed to the Drill Pecks. And as a result, it looks like, unfortunately, I'm not going to reach another charge move. And if I went straight Drill Peck, whilst, yes, probably wouldn't quite have got the KO there, I would have at least put them into range where I could get the KO with a Magnet Bomb, whereas now, unfortunately, Magnet Bomb is not going to get the KO up against the Gastrodon, and of course, Mud Slap takes out that Magneton, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see a Corviknight in the lead. So I'm going to stay in this lead matchup here initially. They can throw and outpace me to the Air Cutter. I am resisting the fast move damage, which is fine with me. Overfarm too much here. Don't really know why I did that. But we are actually just going to bank all the energy at this point. Come in with the Hydreigon, and we're able to bait out a Shadow Annihilate, which is actually quite good for me because I've, of course, got two Pokemon that are weak to the fighting typing. And I've got Dodrio, which now, not intentionally, but does now have a lot of energy. So at this point, we can come in, we can win CMP in this matchup here, which means we actually don't even take any counter damage. Drill Peck is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. So at this point, I'm going to shield as well. Wait to see if the opponent does stay in. Fire off that Drill Peck number 2. Drill Peck, of course, all shields are down. It gets the KO there. We can now come in with the Magneton. And of course, whilst we are going to take double resisted damage here, I think I might as well shield just because if they get the boost, of course, they're going to do quite a lot of damage with those sand attacks. But they do swap out into Dedenne. We can fully resist the charge moves. However, I will need to throw as a Play Rough gets the KO from this range. We go for Discharge. It takes out the Dedenne. They come back in with the Corviknight and they can reach a last second charge move. But once again, Air Cutter double resisted. We actually just barely hang on, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see a Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into Corsola, and I've got no clue why I didn't just swap into Hydreigon. I do stay in here. Of course, I know that Power Gem is going to be super effective, but I am resisting, well, actually double resisting the fast move damage, so that is why I do stay in. And I figured as well, I can go for a Trailblaze here, boost up my attack, and then Dodrio might start to get out of hand in this battle. But anyways, we fire off a second Drill Peck. I definitely should have swapped out at this point into Hydreigon, but it doesn't really matter too much. I am, of course, now down a 0 shields to 1, but they come in with a Togekiss. I am boosted here. Drill Peck boosted, does big damage. Unfortunately, doesn't quite get the KO, but I swap out into my Hydreigon, and the opponent goes for a Side Shock there, which is huge for me, as that is double resisted by the Dark typing of Hydreigon. We can now outpace them to a Brutal Swing. If they commit to a full farm down, I'm going to reach yet another Brutal Swing. It doesn't really matter, as Dodrio does have a charge move loaded anyways, but at this point, of course, gonna fire off that Drill Peck. Drill Peck will be getting the KO here, taking out the Shadow Marowak, and we can just Peck farm down the Togekiss to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle to see a Shadow Giratina in the lead. So, this is going to be an okayish matchup for me. They are on Dragon Breath, which is going to deal decent damage here. Of course, if they're on Shadow Claw, that's actually a really good matchup for the Dodrio. But anyways, we're going to swap into our Hydreigon. I'm going to shield this. They go for Ancient Power, and they are going to get the boost there, which we do see very belatedly on the screen, which unfortunately means they're doing more damage, but they still don't tank a Brutal Swing, and we can still reach a second Brutal Swing before they come in and fully farm me down with a Shadow Scizor. Now, of course, I'm double resisting bullet punches on my Shadow Magneton. I'm going to be shielding here as they go for a Night Slash. And their final Pokemon is going to be a Gastrodon. And once again, I'm going to make a huge mistake trying to commit to the Trailblaze. We actually don't get there. Water Pulse gets the KO. I think this was the first battle I've had up against a Gastrodon. I forgot that Water Pulse did cost less energy, of course, expecting it to be 6 Mud Slaps to the Charge Move. It is now 5, and as a result, we get outpaced, and again, we do end up losing that game. But GG's to put there into the next battle to see Azumarill in the lead. So this is a fine matchup for me. Of course, Trailblaze gonna hit for super effective damage. We're able to grab an early shield here, which is fine with me, of course. Ice Beam is gonna deal big damage in return. Probably gets the one shot, in all honesty. We are very slow to swap out there, and as a result, they can probably outpace me now to back-to-back charge moves. They fire off the Aura Sphere. I'm not going to throw on perfect timing. I believe I could have thrown one turn later, potentially. And as a result, we are actually just barely going to be outpaced by a single turn to the next charge move. Is this going to impact this game here? Of course, they get the one shot with the Aura Sphere. But we can now come in with our Shadow Magneton. I'm going to look to throw on CMP. I can just go straight for a Discharge here. And of course, from this range, with the Volt Switch damage, Discharge gets the KO there. They're going to come in with a Dartrix, and the opponent swaps out. They try to catch a charge move. As a result, we can now overfarm, fire off the Discharge. Discharge doesn't get the KO. It puts them into farm down range, however, and we've already got a Drill Peck loaded, so we fire it off straight away. Drill Peck very nearly gets the one shot. One more peck, gets that full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Shadow Empoleon in the lead. So, of course, not a great matchup for me, but actually on Waterfall, which is very interesting. So, maybe just ran out of fast TMs. I don't really understand why you would run Waterfall. But anyways, we're going to swap into Hydreigon. I am so wishing I had Flash Cannon right now. Unfortunately, I don't, so we're going to settle for the Brutal Swing. And you're going to see Brutal Swing really does not do much damage whatsoever. But so far, they are incredibly weak to a Shadow Magneton. So presumably that means they will have an answer in the back, which is unfortunate for us because we kind of need the Magneton to take out the Empoleon. I'm going to shield the first move here just because I realize I can now no-shield the next one, and I'm not in the range where they can just farm me down with another Pokemon unless they're running like a Shadow Golurk, for example. But anyways, Discharge gets the KO from that range, and they've actually got Corsola in the back. So at this point, we blind throw a Discharge. We do grab the shield anyways, which isn't the worst case scenario ever. But we're now going to go for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be no-shielded, and we have put them into range where we can fast move farm them down. So of course, going to go for that Peck farm down. We are now boosted. This Drill Peck is going to do decent damage. I tried to throw on CMP, but actually the opponent is going to now overfarm here, and I need to live 2 more Astonishes to get to the charge move here. Or sorry, 3 more Astonishes. And unfortunately, we don't get there in time. They can fast move farm me down, and I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, another Shadow Gyarados in the lead. So once again, going to play this out exactly the same. Look to snipe with that Volt Switch, switching 1 turn before they get to the Arcrotel. This time, they come in with the Gastrodon, but that's actually exactly what I wanted. I wanted to bait out their Mud Slap user, because now we can come back in with the Dodrio. We've now got a huge energy advantage. We fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be shielded by the opponent. And at this point, we can just shield in return. The opponent is going to go ahead and full send a Water Pulse. Fine with me. I'm now going to once again full send a Trailblaze. Trailblaze, double super effective. It gets the KO there. And let's see what they want to do. The opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Scissor. We can just barely reach a charge move. Of course, Drill Peck should be grabbing the final shield. We can now come in with the Hydreigon, and whilst I will resist the typical charge moves, I am just going to shield anyways. Otherwise, Gyarados probably can come in and Dragon Breath farm me down. Here, maybe I could have committed to a full farm down, but I recognize I can throw here. I've still got enough HP to reach another Brutal Swing before they farm me down and before they get to the next charge move. So Brutal Swing takes out the shiny Shadow Scissor, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Dodrio into a Corviknight. So, of course, once again, going to double resist their fast move damage. So, not the worst matchup ever. I will wait for them to throw and then potentially swap out afterwards. The opponent goes for an Air Cutter. We're going to bank the energy, come in with our Hydreigon, and once again, we are going to no-shield. Presumably, Payback is their secondary charge move, in which case, that is resisted damage. Also, they now get the boost, so I'm going to no-shield the first move. I will be shielding the next Air Cutter. However, they actually allow me to get to another Brutal Brutal Swing first. So at this point, Brutal Swing is going to get them fairly low. At this point, I'm actually happy with Hydreigon's work, so I'm going to no-shield this. They can outpace me to the next charge move. They get yet another boost here. And what I should be doing is just throwing straight away with my Dodrio, but I don't. I over-farm, and as a result, they get to another charge move. Not really sure what I'm doing. At this point, both charge moves will get the KO, so I might as well boost up my attack here. Trailblaze, double resisted, gets the KO. They've got a Lantern, and now we're boosted. Honestly, Trailblaze probably grabs the final shield, and it does exactly that. But unfortunately, they've got a Mudslap, Kanto Marowak in the back. There's just not a lot I can do here. We can go for the Magnet Bomb. It does respectable damage, but unfortunately, not quite enough there. I could possibly shield this, but I think they would reach another charge move anyways. Bone Club doesn't get the KO, but I allow that full Mudslap farm down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But it's the next battle. GG's to that trainer, by the way. This time, they're going to swap out straight away into a Morpeko. So I'm actually going to go for a Drill Peck here. Drill Peck is going to grab the shield, and now we can swap into Hydreigon. Now, of course, they could run Outrage. I don't think I've ever seen a Morpeko on Outrage, so I assume we can just tank whatever they throw. And Aura Sphere does tons of damage, actually. I will definitely need to shield this. The opponent is going to go ahead and full send another Aura Wheel there, which does, of course, boost up their attack once again. And unfortunately, because Dragon Breaths don't do as much damage this season, I'm still forced to throw a charge move here to get the KO. They come in with a second electric type mouse here into Dene. We can go for Brutal Swing. That is resisted damage, but we can now come in with the Magneton and, of course, dealing resisted damage with the fast move, but Volt Switch still does decent damage here. We grab a shield with the Discharge. And the reason I go for Discharge is just in case the opponent did swap into Gyarados to try and make a catch. But either way, I'm now going to shield here as they go for another Parabolic Charge. This time full sending the Magnet Bomb, but this time they do actually make that catch there. I'm actually going to fully charge this just because we are still going to get the full farm down. We come out with a Discharge loaded. I swap into Dodrio, force them to throw. However, I realize they can now boost up the defense there, so maybe should have thrown Discharge first. But I don't think it really matters, even though it's resisted damage. Shadow Magneton has a huge attack stat. From this range, it gets the KO up against the Dene, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the final battle of this video, leading into a Trevenant, so a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into a Blastoise. We can come in with the Shadow Magneton, and of course, I'm going to need to respect the damage from a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to do huge damage here. I can't throw on perfect timing because they will reach another move, so instead, we go for one Volt Switch. We get the KO with the Discharge. They come back in with the Trevenant, and we can fire off the Magnet Bomb. Magnet Bomb is going to be shielded by the opponent, so we do grab that shield back straight away. We're going to no-shield this, and actually, Dodrio or Hydreigon both have really good matchups into their Trevenant, but both have really bad matchups up against this Dugong. So I'm going to go straight for a Trailblaze. They actually no-shield the first charge move, which is surprising for a Dugong user. However, of course, maybe predicting I'm on Brave Bird, so I didn't want to shield a Drill Peck. Either way, because Hydreigon is so quick to the charge moves now, I can safely shield up the Icy Wind and still outpace them to the next charge move before they get to a second Icy Wind. Brutal Swing gets the KO there. We might be debuffed, but it's not going to make a huge difference here. Brutal Swing will get them incredibly low here. Brutal Swing, they actually live with 1 HP and a Dream. They do reach a last second charge move. Shadow Ball also doesn't quite get the KO there. We live with 1 HP and a Dream, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.